I'd like to please invite Shashank Sharma, founder and chief executive officer, Sunsure Energy, which is a leading force in transforming India's renewable energy landscape. So this is what we've titled it as a power talk. Can we have a powerful round of applause, everyone? Please help me welcome our next speaker, Shashank Sharma.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct pleasure to be speaking today at the Times Now Global Sustainability Alliance. And what an inspiring morning this has been. And it is always difficult to match the energy of Dr. Mathur, but I'll try and do my best. When I was thinking about the topic of this address, this talk, the only thing that came to my mind is that I should be direct and probably be the devil's advocate today. And I couldn't help but start with the iconic opening line of The Tale of Two Cities. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It perfectly resonates with the most visible dichotomy of our times: capitalism and economic growth on one side, and sustainability on the other. It is probably the best time for capitalism, but we cannot say the same about sustainability. There is no denying that capitalism has been the most dominant force of the last century. It has fueled incredible innovation and progress. It has lifted millions out of poverty and driven economic progress. But we also have to agree that to some extent, to some degree, it has overlooked the impact of its actions on our planet. As Mahatma Gandhi once said, the earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not every man's greed. And he was absolutely right. We often hear that sustainability is the need of the hour. It's a phrase that has been repeated on global stages, boardrooms across industries. But I don't think we give it the importance that it deserves. We don't feel it unless it affects us. We don't feel it unless the air we breathe becomes so polluted that we develop respiratory diseases. We don't feel it until cancer rates rise in our society. We don't feel it unless our ecosystems collapse. And look at where we've landed ourselves. Parts of India are at the risk of being submerged. People say, the reports say, by 2050, Mumbai, the southern part of Mumbai, Mantralaya, Nariman Point, and our iconic Wankhede Stadium could be underwater. Chennai, 7% of India's land may be submerged by 2040, and nearly 10% by 2060. And similar fate for Kochi and Thiruvananthapuram. There are reports that say in Himachal, the apple production has gone down as the right temperature zones for apple have moved up in the altitudes due to global warming. India is home to 39 of the world's 50 most polluted cities. And in Delhi, we are all in Delhi today. In Delhi, residents lose 9 years of their life expectancy to pollution. Species are getting extinct. Oceans are dying with 8 billion tons of plastic. In simple words, Mother Nature is on life support. For a moment, let's look at what our Indian culture and Indian civilization has taught us for ages and centuries. We've been taught to call our land and nature as mother. One of our Sanskrit sloks, Bhumi Sarvabhutana Matrabhava, means the earth is the motherly feeling of all beings. We're talking about a philosophy that teaches sensitivity. We know that things are to be used and people are meant to be loved. But today, things are loved and people are used to get those things. Capitalism-led consumerism has led us to believe that personal well-being and happiness depend on consumption. But capitalism isn't to blame, really. Capitalism is good for progress, and we all subscribe to it. It's capitalism without purpose and without respect for planet that is short-lived and not multi-generational. But there is hope. Businesses are beginning to wake up to the reality that sustainability is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity. But we have to be sure of two things when we talk about sustainability and shift in mindset that we are talking about. Neither will this change in mindset happen too fast because of the way last 50 years capitalism has grown, and nor will it happen voluntarily. We will need to create strong, implementable regulatory frameworks that tie capitalism to sustainability in a way that makes them inseparable. And let me give you an example in support of this mindset argument. As an organization, we help organizations, the commercial industrial organizations of the country, in two things: decarbonizing and reducing the costs by supplying low cost green power. When we talk to the industry, we talk about two things: savings to the organization by buying low cost green power and CO2 emissions saved. 100% of the people will ask us to explain the calculation of economic savings, but only 10% will ask us about the CO2 and sustainability part, clearly indicating where the KPIs are. And I'm happy to see that at least 10% are bothered about this now. A decade back, this could probably have been close to zero. What we need to put are strong regulatory frameworks that tie capitalism and sustainability. And just let me give you a few examples. CBAM, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism of EU. It is not another environmental regulation, it's a game changer. By making it mandatory for companies to account for their carbon emissions, Europe has essentially embedded sustainability into the cost of doing business. For Indian exporters, this means they must now become greener to remain competitive in global markets. Sustainability is no longer an ethical concern, it's a business imperative. And now more and more exporters wanting to export to the EU, especially from the hard to abate sectors, are going for renewable energy. Similarly, in the Indian context, we could make the RPO compliance stricter and introduce the concept of double bottom line to ensure industry takes the right steps. A similar initiative was taken by the government for CSR, making CSR mandatory for corporates. While we can all have our own view about it, but it did tie capitalism to purpose. What we need is a sustainable model of development that aligns with principles of sustainable capitalism, one that combines profit with purpose, with strong regulatory frameworks. This is especially critical for India's context. According to every major economic forecast, India is poised to be the fastest growing economy of this decade and said to be the third largest economy by the end of this decade. However, India's development does not have the same luxury of time and resources that the West enjoyed during its growth. We cannot be careless in our approach. India is home to 1.4 billion people and their dreams, with a stark divide between urban India and rural Bharat. We have to lift millions out of poverty and create millions of jobs. While we are doing a phenomenal work in the space of building digital infrastructure, financial inclusion, and building public infrastructure, the greatest challenge to sustainability in India lies in our energy sector. Over 70% of our power still comes from coal, and needless to say, energy is the backbone of development. Greening our energy sector has the ability to green the sectors that consume this green power. Under the leadership of our Prime Minister, we are working on the biggest energy access and energy transition programs in the history of mankind, with an ambition of making an energy independent India that is not dependent on oil exporting nations. Hopefully, India will forge its own path of development that blends profit with purpose, powering billions of dreams of Bharat and leading to inclusive growth, as envisioned by a Prime Minister's mantra, Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. Jai Hind. Thank you.